Selesny Adepts taking on Harlan on Jeskai Mentor, of course. Harlan coming off that big win in Dallas, pledging his devotion to Urza in Modern, as are many players right now, Craig Krempel's included. Don't blame him. I think it's the best deck in Modern.
He's a powerful wizard, Urza.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We just saw Urza on camera last round in Legacy. Maybe that's the next step for Urza. Dom having an important conversation. Don't worry about it, Dom. Text your friends.
Yeah, finish whatever you're doing on your phone.
Yeah, we'll wait. Not trying to run a tournament here. He's playing Angry Birds.
Oh, that's what it...
Yeah, I just got word from the spotter. Dom's playing Angry Birds. Oh, he just had to suit up with his Naruto headband.
That looks like a Naruto shoulder pad.
Shoulder band, yeah, okay.
Shoulder pad, yeah. Like
they're diverse. They can do basically anything. Gonna start things off right here. It's Giver of Runes. So funny to see Giver of Runes over Mother of Runes in the Legacy format, but you get it. Ren and 6 absolutely everywhere. Giver of Runes a second toughness, keeping it safe from Ren. Also, protection from colorless matters a lot when you're trying to protect a Dark Depths token from Karakas.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. A little bit of an upgrade there for Giver of Runes. Crazy. When we saw this card, we were like, oh, maybe this is like Mother of Runes 5 through 8, or it's just a Modern-only print. But here we see it in the Legacy format, getting the job done. And Dom just going off, looking for the weenie beatdown plan here. Bunch of 1-2s on the battlefield for Dom.
What world do we live in where there's two Savannas in play on the same side in a Legacy event?
Legacy is changing.
What has happened here?
Legacy is absolutely changing. Snow-covered island on the other side. Like, go back 6 months and this looks like a pipe dream. And these are brand new cards too. You look all over the table. There's Elvish Reclaimer, there's Giver of Runes, there's Arkham's Astrolabes. These cards didn't exist just going back a few months. There's a Force of Negation. It's just crazy how much this format has changed recently.
A wild new world we live in.
Absolutely. More basics are the order of the day for Harlan. Gotta get snow-covered plains now. I know Craig, very upset, can no longer make meaningful choices about what basic lands to play. You're priced into playing snow lands almost always.
Sure. Harlan, though, a little nod to the old school with the Ice Age snow lands.
Love it. Keep it old school. Can I go ahead? Swords to Plowshares. One of the Giver of Runes here.
Yeah, that's a slow process, right? Just slogging your way through all of these guys.
Look at this. Another 1-drop for Dom Harvey. It's Sylvan Safekeeper. Really trying to make sure that 2020 token sticks on the battlefield when its time comes.
Yeah, and with this much stuff, the Reclaimer's going to put together the combo.
Yep. Dom just needs a little time right now, and Harlan's not the most adept at just ending the game on the spot, that's for sure.
And yeah, there's going to be all these creatures to protect it.
Council's Judgment for Harlan.
Yeah, that'll find its way around some of this.
2 copies right in the main deck. Could be important as this game goes on. Looks like Dom's doing a little fetching here. No, this is an Elvish Reclaimer activation. That's a wasteland. I was going to say, that didn't quite look like a fetch land to me. One of those newfangled wastelands.
Well, it's still some fetching of sorts.
Right. Flagstones of Troikar. Man, am I a happy camper right now. If we get to ramp with Elvish Reclaimer, oh, Craig, that's going to do stuff to me.
This is the long way around, huh?
Let's take our time. There's no rush.
Circuitous route to get to where we're going.
No rush whatsoever. We'll get there eventually. Elvish Reclaimer is going to turn that Flagstones into whatever Dom needs. Here's Gaddock T.
Man.
What is happening right now? I don't think this is a typical draw for Dom's deck. This is extremely creature heavy.
Oh, man.
Here's another Swords to Plowshare. It's got to target the Giver of Runes. Not really any other choice here. But Sylvan Safekeeper can keep that safe. And Flagstones of Troikar are going to be cashed in. Able to go get a Plains. Wow.
Yeah, this is a hard workaround.
That's got to feel great on Dom's side. I can't even imagine how happy he is right
I mean,
now.
he showed up with a bunch of creatures that are unplayable in Modern.
Right.
And he's just beating up on his Legacy opponent.
Cobbling them together somehow. Harlan's going to go ahead and cast Brainstorm here. Those are those fresh Cowboy Bebop sleeves Harlan's got working. Craig, a huge Cowboy Bebop fan, I know.
I like me some Cowboy Bebop.
That's one of the, when we were talking about anime, that's one of the ones you were able to rattle off without pause. You knew that one on the spot.
Yeah, I haven't watched a ton, but I have watched and enjoyed some of the genre.
Mm-hmm.
Conversely, I don't know if I'd be caught dead with multiple Savannahs in my Legacy deck.
You're okay with the Cowboy Bebop sleeves. It's Savannah where you draw the line.
And we're throwing cards all over.
Well,
the place.
Dom's got plenty of creatures. He doesn't really need that one anyway.
What
it's
is
in
his
deck. Wait, no, that's the creature from the battlefield.
This is awesome.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
okay, we got it
man.
sorted out. Things got a little hairy for a moment there.
Yeah, Dominic getting a little excited here.
Throws his creature into his opponent's deck.
It's such a hard lock that
Right. He's like, it doesn't matter what I do. This is disposable to me. Here's Monastery Mentor, but time is running out very quickly for Harlan. Unless maybe Council's Judgment can come save the day. It's funny, I think there was a long period of time where Dom could have been content to just play this game fair, but Monastery Mentor really ends any chance of that. It'll just scale so large that we need a 2020 now.
Well, I like Dominic's patience up until now, where he's saying, I don't need to do anything risky.
Right.
I'll just slowly strangle him out here. And with the Mentor hitting the board, it's probably now time to do what you're here to do.
Yep.
And that's make a 2020 and protect it.
Absolutely. Let's see how Dom wants to go about that. Passes the turn. Back to Harlan. Force of Will. I know there's some Jaces in Harlan's hand. All that's shut off by Gaddock Teague. Ponder is not, though. So that's going to resolve.
Man, so many cards just jammed up.
Yeah. Effectively shutting down these sinkholes as well. All right, we're going to do a shuffle because all those cards were way too expensive to be looking for when Gaddock Teague's on the battlefield. I feel like I'm saying this a lot today. Add Teague to the list of cards that really can shine in Legacy when it gets the chance to.
Sure. I mean, yeah, that's a powerful effect.
Mm-hmm.
A little Kithkin.
Ooh, Harlan drew a back to basics. Can we find a window to make that relevant?
Just getting on the board right here might be that window.
I think so. Because Dom wanted to definitely spend some mana on that Elvish Reclaimer. Can do so in response. Looks like he did not, though.
Yeah, I mean, back to basics just prevents them from untapping. So he's still going to be able to do whatever he wants to do here.
Sure. No difference. You're right. You're right. I was in a Blood Moon state of mind there. I don't know where I was coming from.
Yeah, Blood Moon, Magus of the Moon, those cards would have been a problem.
All right. So we might be lining up some blocks here for Dom. That Reclaimer is bigger these days. Yeah, this is pretty safe.
Yeah, he's thinking about double blocking and then, getting that card off the board, protecting his guys with the Giver.
Yeah, but it's like you said, once those monks show up, it might be too late. All right, we're going to spend some mana here. Going to get Dark Depths. Don't really care if that one remains tapped.
And he can protect this Dark Depths so many times.
Yep.
Between the Giver Runes and the Sylvan Safekeeper.
It's going to be a lot for Harlan.
Yeah, I can't imagine it doesn't just end the game when the 2020 comes down.
See a Force of Will in hand, a Sinkhole, and I believe a Swords to Plowshares. Dom's going to go the long way here.
Yeah, and he's just getting the maximum use out of the dice, too.
Right. You get that feature match, you need to shine. Get in there, use all the dice you want. It's your time. No one can stop you. I'm just thinking about the timing of all this now.
Yeah, do I want the 20/20 now or on his turn? Does it make a difference? Probably does not make a difference.
Probably doesn't. Fear is like raw wasteland, but no wastelands here. Seemingly one of the few wastelandless decks. Here's a Swords to Plowshares on the Giver of Runes. How do we feel about that?
So I think you make the 20/20 here, and then you sack the land to protect the Giver of Runes.
That sounds nice to me.
Just letting it go is actually very similar. You still have the land on the board to protect the 20/20 through the Safekeeper.
Turn headed over to Harlan now. Takes a draw. It's another Mentor. I don't think that's what we were looking for here.
Yeah, the deck namesake. Powerful card, not what we needed to win this game.
Maybe trying to bait Dom into some bad blocks here, unlocking something that could be of use, but just don't know how that goes.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to be gained here beyond a little extra information. All right, 20/20 coming. Decides he wants to block with that bad boy.
Why not?
Jerry T on the board.
Put Jerry to work. Make him do something.
Dropping bows.
Yeah, and that's going to do it. Harlan's going to scoop him up, and that means Dom Harvey up a game over Harlan Fear. Like we said, there was just too much protection there. It wasn't realistic that Harlan was going to find a way through all of that. It was all about basically find Council's Judgment or bust, and Gaddock T made that very difficult anyway. So it was just not in the cards for Harlan, but
well,
that means it's sideboard time. And let's look at what Harlan's working with as far as answers to this problematic 20/20 in the sideboard. There you see Harlan sideboards: 3 Rest in Peace, 2 Supreme Verdict, 2 Pyroblast, 2 Palace Jailer, 2 Hydroblast, 1 Wear, 1 Celestial Purge, 1 Back to Basics, and 1 Abrade. What do you want to do over on Harlan's side here?
This is an interesting sideboard that he's got going on here. With all the creatures running around, I like the Supreme Verdict. It's always good except for when Gaddock T is on the board. There's some argument to be made for the Palace Jailer, where you're saying, all right, this game's going to be slow, it's going to be grindy, I'm going to get to eat your creature and then just draw an extra card every turn for the rest of the game. But it's possible that a card like that it's almost a win more card. Like, it's good when you're ahead and it's just so bad when you're behind.
Yeah, and it would be scary if that Monarch turns against you, that's for sure.
The Back to Basics I like. It's going to almost always be good. And then there's a question of whether or not you want Rest in Peace. It keeps some of these cards smaller, the Elvish Reclaimer and stuff like that.
Knight of the Reliquary.
Knight of the Reliquary. But that might not be enough utility out of that card.
Yeah, I think you just have better options in most instances, but we'll see what Harlan wants to do there. Meanwhile, over on Dom's side, we were looking at 3 Veil of Summer, 2 Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, 2 Swords to Plowshares, 2 Leyline of the Void, 2 Force of Vigor, 1 Tireless Tracker, 1 Sylvan Library, 1 Reclamation Sage, and finally 1 Pithing Needle. What do you want to do if you're over on Dom's side?
So I like a smattering of these cards here. The Thalia, Guardian of Thraben is, we talk about this in other matchups where maybe it's good enough for this matchup, maybe it's not. It's a card that you definitely want against like Storm and some of the decks like that. Maybe it's just a little too slow and clunky here. The Force of Vigor is a question. How scared are you of Back to Basics and cards like that? But I definitely like the Sylvan Library. I definitely like the Reclamation Sage. Bringing those cards in just always seems good.
Yeah, any source of card advantage you can find here is going to be very useful. Sylvan Library, one of the best. Not as effective against like a traditional Miracles build per se, where you just get to burn that life total at will, but still you'll see a lot more cards and be willing to spend a little life on that one, get some more in your hand. Really interesting deck here from Dom Harvey. I want to point out the removal in the main deck. no Swords to Plowshares, 3 Path to Exile.
Sure.
Dom's just out here playing Modern.
Kind of.
Interesting. It's an interesting decision. I mean, you think about pushing your opponent over the 20 life threshold. He's saying it's so important to me that I get to kill my opponent in one single swing of this depth token that I'm not going to play one of the best removal spells ever printed in Swords to Plowshares.
Well, I've had conversations with Legacy aficionados in the past about are the basic land counts in the format dropping low enough to where you want to play Path to Exile? And I think the argument that you're making with the 20 life total being so critical is definitely the deciding factor here, especially with a lot of these snow decks running around with way more basics than we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. But in the past, there was conversations about whether or not you should be playing Path to Exile.
Sure. There's also the other side of the coin, too. The Delver decks are basically loaded with non-basics at this point. So I think there's probably a chance every now and then it's just a hard removal spell and doesn't even ramp your opponent. Have to check in with Dom, see how those are treating him. I also want to check in on our Throne of Eldraine pre-release. You can register today. There will be, in fact, this exclusive playmat available at participating stores. Bombs Away, the name of this one. I like this one quite a bit. This is a cool one. Part of our Star City Games creature collection. Head over to go.starcitygames.com/pre-release and figure out if the stores near you are offering Bombs Away. How many playmats do you have at your house, Craig?
Too many.
Yeah, me too. Just stacks and stacks of playmats. I never get rid of them.
I like a lot of them.
Me too.
There's just so many cool artworks, and then some I've won at events where I'm like, I'm proud of my finish at this event. And then you just have playmats and playmats, and you can only use one at a time. Well, I guess you could use multiple. You look a little silly if you'd sit down and put like 6 playmats on top of each other on the table.
That's claiming a lot of space for yourself too.
No, it's still just one playmat.
Stack them.
Yeah. You're just like, these are all my coolest playmats. I'm going to use all of them, kind of.
Just rotate through them as the game goes on. That's
sure.
fun.
No, the game goes bad, you take the top playmat and you just throw it over your shoulder. You're just like, done with this one.
All right, I like that approach.
Yeah.
My wife has also taken to these playmats as well. She uses them as mouse pads. Covers her whole desk in them.
Me too,
so,
yeah.
Maybe you can never have too many playmats. Harlan going to start the game off with a ponder here. Doesn't like what he sees. Going to do a little shuffling. Get a new card on top of that library.
Yeah, my cats like to sleep on the playmats.
Perfect. Everyone wins with playmats.
Yeah, well, that gives me a reason to occasionally get rid of one when it starts to get a little too hairy or whatever.
My dog doesn't fit on my playmat shelf, so I have not had to deal with that, thankfully.
Dog person, huh? I should have known.
I love all animals, Craig.
That is fair.
My wife is allergic to cats. I love cats, too. I would have a cat if she wasn't allergic.
No, get her a hypoallergenic cat for Christmas this year.
We looked into it. You know, I love those Sphinx cats.
Yep, the hairless
ones. They're not hypoallergenic, though. That's what I found out.
The hairless cat is not.
Yeah.
Because I am told that my Siamese cat is.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to bring my wife to your house. We're going to rub your cats all over.
No, just so I only have one purebred Siamese cat.
Oh, okay.
The other cat...
So the other ones are dangerous.
I mean, we can do this.
Right.
I'm just saying it's not going to turn out well.
Yeah, we'll test out this Siamese theory. I would like to have a cat around. That would be nice. I think my dog would appreciate it, too. He's a sweet guy. Getting older now, would like a cat brother or sister to hang out with. Giver of Runes, again, for Dom Harvey, going to be the start off just basic planes. Harlan's going to go ahead and fetch. A lot of basics in this matchup.
Oh, so many.
Snow-covered plains for Harlan. Dom knows what that means. Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah, we all know what that means. With the addition of Astrolabe to these decks, they just get to play so many basics.
Yeah.
You never get punished by Wasteland. You can always cast your spells. It's a pretty nice position to be in.
It certainly is. You know what I want to say most about this Legacy format? We focus a lot on these new cards and how powerful they are, and that's true, unquestionably. But I think the games are good right now. I think a lot of these games are very interesting. They're still decision-intensive games, as Legacy has always been. In general, I'm pleased with the way matches of Magic play in the Legacy format right now, and that's the most important thing.
Okay. Enough decks with interaction.
I think so, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and play Mox Diamond here. Pitches Ancient Tomb. Here's Elvish Reclaimer.
An Ancient Tomb.
Some hits in this deck. There's a Snapcaster Mage targeting that Swords to Plowshares. Gonna go ahead and answer that Elvish Reclaimer. That value engine can be tough to overcome. It's just infinite utility, eventually becoming a big body. Powerful card.
Yeah, and with the Selesnya deck not having a lot of tutor effects in the deck, being able to deal with the first 2, 3, 4 cards that it puts on the board, it'll leave you a lot of time.
I agree. Here's a Green Sun Zenith for 1. Yep, just time for another Reclaimer. Can't blame Dom for that choice. As we said, just given enough time, Reclaimer will win the game. It will find a way. And here's a Dark Depth, so it may not even take that much time. Dom, again, with the 3-die style of marking the Dark Depths. Stylistic choice. Some players choose their basics carefully. Dom chooses his dice carefully. Double Supreme Verdict. As you guessed, entered from the sideboard. Force of Will also being found with this Brainstorm.
This was an awkward Brainstorm if he does not have a fetch in his hands.
And I don't believe he does. Sinkhole. Let's see. It's going back on top. There's the fetch line. Flooded Strand.
It looks like a
Prismatic
Vista as well, yeah.
So plenty of fetching for Harlan.
Yeah, I mean, that was important. If he Brainstorm locked himself there, it would be a long way to go before anything good happened for him in this game.
No problem, though. Going to go ahead and clear off the top of the library. Go find yet another basic. Prismatic Vista, another new card. Mountain. Snow-covered mountain. I do like these Ice Age lands a lot. For all the crankiness about losing control over the lands, these are good ones. And it's time for a Magmatic Sinkhole. That's going to take out that Elvish Reclaimer.
Yeah, and I'm a little surprised that he didn't fetch up a Volcanic Island here, just because he has Force of Will in his hand.
Right.
And it's a card that, hard casting that is a very real possibility.
Right. 3 Wasteland in Dom's deck, though. Harlan just saying, I can't afford to be wastelanded. Not going to let it happen. Here's a Knight of the Reliquary from Dom. Big threat coming on board. Of course, we know Harlan with that Supreme Verdict in hand, but now also with the Teferi, Time Raveler. Another new card entering the battlefield for Jeskai Mentor. That's going to come down and bounce. Knight of the Reliquary back to hand. Finds another copy of Teferi Time Raveler. I'm going to be able to get him for 2 points of damage with Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, the Teferi was a great peel here. It allows Harlan to be very patient with the way that he plays this game. He's got another one in his hand, so potentially he can wait another 2 turns before he decides how he wants to deal with the Knight of the Reliquary, which means he's going to be looking at many more cards out of his deck, attack for a few more chips of damage, and potentially set up that Force of Will.
That's a Teferi Time Raveler, giving Dom a bit of pause now. Rethinking his game plan. Looks like he is going to get away from the Knight of the Reliquary. Veil of Summer.
Got to do it right now.
Giver of Runes. Crop Rotation. Well, I like this. Let's see what Dom can set up with this. I'm assuming we're just going to get stage. There we go. I think that was a good setup from Dom. I think he felt this game slipping away and felt the onus to just do something on that turn that brought the game to a potential conclusion. Now, I don't know how it's going to line up against Harlan's hand. I think it's got some problems, but I still like the general approach from Dom there.
Yeah, it's definitely a switch of gears, right?
Yep.
Where you're saying, All right, the Veil of Summer I just have to cast on my main phase for almost no value, but that's okay, I can do that. And then I'm going to set myself up to make this 2020 in the very near future. Let's go.
Yeah, and that 2020, it would be vulnerable to the Teferi bounce, but you can time it such that you avoid that issue. And Harlan might need to find an answer here. We'll also have to answer that Giver of Runes simultaneously, so let's see if he can find a setup. Dom's just going to go ahead and redeploy Knight. And I think that's going to get max punished.
Yeah. That line is, I would say it's a little scared, right?
Yep.
Taking that line, it's much more conservative. You're not putting your opponent to the test.
Yeah, I thought he shifted gears really well in the last turn, but it felt like he backed off a little bit on that turn and left a point of vulnerability, and Harlan slammed that Supreme Verdict. Now the play is still available. Hasn't lost all that much, but you did give another turn to your opponent.
Yeah, a lot more time. When you think of cards like Brainstorm and Ponder and potentially another cantrip out of Teferi.
Absolutely.
The one extra turn could actually be 6, 7, 8 cards that your opponent gets to look at in their library.
Yep. And we do know Harlan has Swords to Plowshares in hand. It's time to make a Jerry Thompson.
I love this.
It's time to bounce it with Teferi, and it's time to pick up all our cards and head to a deciding Game 3. Harlan Fear are going to take down Game 2 against Dom Harvey.
Yeah, you bounce the Mox Diamond.
Force the action.
You force Dominic to use the mana right there, or Dominic can not make the 2020, but that just...
You can't win in that spot.
Yeah.
We saw Dom correctly identify it was time to start pushing the action. Just couldn't find a big enough window to get his 2020 through.
Well, so he kind of capitulated, right? Like where he was like, all right, I need to set up to make this 2020. And then the next turn, he actually could have made the 2020 to good effect. And he decided not to. And then the wheels just came off.
Right. Yeah, it would have been interesting to see if Harlan would have pulled the trigger on the Supreme Verdict at that point as Dom went to pass the turn. Because I think that's the best spot to do it. You reclaim your mana on your next turn. You have Swords to Plowshares ready to answer the 2020. It's probably safe either way, but it's an interesting spot. So player is going to shuffle up for Game 3 here. Getting a sense of who's favored in this matchup, I really don't know right now. It feels like there's a lot Harlan has to answer, has the tools to do so, but they need to line up properly.
They do, but some of these draws out of Dominic Harvey's deck are just a little bit clunky. Like, it looks like a lot of neat things are going on, but many of them don't actually pressure the opponent. And after sideboard, he's just so much more vulnerable to Supreme Verdict and to a Swords to Plowshares for your 2020.
Absolutely. Well, Craig, I know your affinity for the Commander tournament. If you missed the last show Craig and I did together, Craig revealed he has a Commander deck built for every Commander in the history of Magic, which is one of the most impressive undertakings I've ever heard of, quite frankly.
I'm committed.
He is that in love with the Commander format. If you feel like Craig does, you're going to want to check out Star City Games Commander Versus every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/SCG Tour, right where you're watching right now.
Yeah, you keep asking me to borrow one of my Commander decks.
Well, I have a Commander Fest coming up. There's the one being run by SCG down in Washington, D.C. in a few months. I certainly am going to be there. I'm sure you are already loading up the trucks, getting the Commander decks ready for that event.
Oh, I'm ready to go, but every time I'm like, all right, I will loan you this Commander deck, you're like, oh, it's not all foil? I won't play that.
Well, come on, Craig. I'm a man of principles.
So if our fans at home have an all-foil Commander deck that Brian can borrow,
correct,
he will do battle with it.
Correct. Also going to be one of those Commander Fests out in Seattle as well. I'm going to swing down there. I'm not lying. I'm being dead serious. I'm going to go to the Commander Fest. Maybe I'll play my first game of Commander ever there. Just want to see it. I love Magic. I want to see all forms of Magic being played. I'll definitely pop in when it's in my hometown.
I can tell you, walking back and forth here today to the feature match area and to our broadcast booth, there is like no end of Commander pods that are just firing over and over.
Absolutely. People love Commander. I love Magic. Anyone who finds this game, I welcome them. I want them here. However you want to play Magic, you do you. Enjoy it.
So do you have a favorite character or personality from the Magicverse that you would want to be your commander?
Oh, that's a good question. I've never really pondered this before. I don't have like an attachment to characters really. I have an attachment to cards and like their mechanical functions.
Sure. So I believe that you are more fond of the storylines pre-Planeswalkers.
Yes, that is correct.
So are there some particular characters among those storylines? Krovax or Visara, Kamal.
That's an interesting one. I could see getting, I mean, this makes it sound like I like Yawgmoth. I don't like Yawgmoth, but I could see getting on board with sacrifice shenanigans, maybe using a Yawgmoth commander deck. That could be exciting. Finding fun stuff to do. I mean, I'm probably going to stick a bunch of infinite combos in there. I'm sure that's frowned upon, but I got to be me.
You guys want to have fun?
No,
Too bad.
I just won turn 2. Pack it in. Let's go. Next pod. I'm not changing seats. I'm sitting right here.
I'm sure that's how it would go.
Dominic on 6 this game, but still has the same start. Turn 1. Giver of Runes. Every single game, that's how we've begun things on Dominic Harvey's side. Arkham's Astrolabe for Harlan. No more mana issues. They're all fixed now. That's it. At the cost of no cards, 1 snow mana, you never have mana issues ever again. Enjoy.
Pretty efficient card.
Yeah. Do you need other artifact synergies? Because Astrolabe's ready for that too. Do you have Urza in your deck? You want to turn it into mana later? Sure. Go for it.
The card is such a free roll.
Got my foil copies of Arkham's Astrolabe very early on in the proceedings here.
Did pretty well for yourself there, huh?
It's not huge. It's not a huge get, but saved a couple bucks along the way.
Well, what do they run these days? 10 to 15?
Yeah, about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot for a common that's currently in print.
Well, it is. It is. But it's a whole new world these days. Dom doing a good job of setting up his game plan with basics. Here's that Thalia we questioned. We wondered if that would be entering the battlefield. And it's good enough to get a Force of Will here.
Yeah, I think that would just, especially with the Giver of Runes on the board, just slow Harlan down to a complete crawl.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a good get in this matchup. Here's that Elvish Reclaimer again. We're on the all 1-drops plan.
It looks like this is what the deck does. And I appreciate Dominic's basic land suit.
Okay. Didn't go with the snow-covered lands. Not trying to bluff Astrolabe.
Well, listen, if you paid up for these lands, you want to use them.
Sure. Here's a Braid from Harlan. Harlan just says, give me all the removal. I need it all.
I can see that this is another 2-mana removal spell that gets just about everything he wants to get in the early game.
Sure. Can even get a Mox Diamond in the right situation. I could see that play happening from time to time. But here, just going to answer Giver of Runes. Really agree with your point, Craig, of just how vulnerable Dom is to Supreme Verdict in the post-board games. Basically has to flood the battlefield. No real choice. Here's a Brainstorm from Harlan. See back to basics, making its way to his hand, is along with Prismatic Vista. So going to get the perfect Brainstorm here. Little shuffle action if he wants it. Looks like he does. Prismatic Vista will be deployed. Turn heads back to Dom. Now that Reclaimer is at the ready, maybe Dom can start putting some stuff together there.
Yeah, this is an awkward spot. Dom hasn't really... He has tried to develop every turn of this game, but Harlan's just had the efficient answer so far every single time.
Right.
And as this game goes longer and longer, Harlan's deck is just going to do more efficient things, find more answers, and Dominic's going to run out of steam at some point.
We're going to go ahead and crack that Vista now. Go find another basic. Some fresh cards to the top of the library, hopefully. The sleeve game in Magic these days is strong. More and more nice-looking sleeves popping up for sale.
Yeah, so I was talking about deck boxes with someone the other day, how literally for years and years,
there was one deck box.
It was the cheap plastic with the fold-over top, and the corners would break, and it'd be in your backpack, and your cards would slide out of this thing, and you got them at every event for years. And now there's just so many good deck boxes made out of wood and plastic and felt on the inside with magnets or this or that. And sleeves, same thing. It feels like it took so long, and now... like every 6 months, there's another better sleeve that I really like to use.
Look, the game is bigger than ever. More players than ever. More money to be made. Companies getting more interested. It's a good time to play Magic. Back to basics. Resolved for Harlan. Looking to slow down Dom a little bit.
It's funny, though. So... Dom has the Reclaimer to sacrifice the tapped lands. And he's got 2 basics in play already. So this isn't going to jam him up that much.
Now those are the only 2 basics in Dom's deck. So any other mana sources are going to be single use. But still, getting Reclaimer able to do its thing, big deal. Now I will mention all those lands come into play tapped. So you go get something like a Thespian Stage. Doesn't really do all that much for you. But Dom going to go ahead and fetch here. In terms of outs to this back to basics, what are we really looking at? Oh, Dom found a solution here. Going to use crop rotation to go ahead and get untapped Thespian Stage. Okay, I like that.
And then the Reclaimer can search for the other half tapped.
And that doesn't matter.
Because that doesn't matter.
And we're going to do that now. And Reclaimer going to go get Dark Depths. Unfortunately, not enough mana to set up Sajiri's step protection with that Reclaimer. Well, let's see what Dom can put together here. Always 3 dice. That's the only way to properly represent your Dark Depths.
The triple die.
Dom takes a draw. Is it just go time? Are we waiting until opponent's turn? What's the plan here?
After he saw multiple 3-drop Teferis in the previous game, like I can't imagine he would make this on his own turn.
Don't see a lot of upside to it. Harlan Swords to Plowshares at the ready. Does Dom want to spend a little bit more time in setup? So close to Reclaimer protection.
Quite close, yes. But we saw Dominic take the extra turns in previous games. He tried to take the extra turn, and it ended up costing him.
Right.
And we're talking about how a lot of times the good players just jam. They force their opponent to have it.
Yeah, it's always going to be a tough decision. But it looks like Pithing Needle time. Okay. What can we do with that? We'll get some confirmation on exactly what that's naming. Teferi, my guess?
Yeah, Teferi, possibly Jace if you think the opponent has Jace.
After some debate, it sounds like Dom has settled on Teferi Time Raveler for that Pithing Needle. And is going to attack with the Reclaimer. Interesting. Here's Jace. Named the wrong Planeswalker, unfortunately. It was just a toss-up.
Yep.
You can't really blame Dom for getting that one wrong.
And now Harlan, with the 1 mana up, is saying, what do you think? You think I've got it?
Yeah. Look at him staring into Dom's soul. You feeling lucky, Punk? You feeling lucky?
And if I'm on Dominic's side and I'm looking at this active Jace, I can't imagine not making the 2020.
I mean, I don't think you can win a game that goes another turn. There's Swords to Plowshares that is going to answer the 2020.
Like
I support Dom's decision there entirely.
It feels like he's going to have it, but if he doesn't have it, waiting another turn and letting him draw a card and then brainstorm with Jace, like then he's definitely going to have it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that was the correct decision. Even though it didn't work out. Can't be results-oriented. You have to be realistic about this scenario. There we see Harlan with a Snapcaster Mage in hand. Things were never getting any better in this scenario for Dom. Really just needed to get lucky with the Pithing Needle name, I think, to have a chance in this game. Here's a Palace Jailer. Wow, that's going to answer Reclaimer and start generating card advantage for Harlan.
Do we have the Monarch token?
I'm sure we're ready to get some Jessup action on the battlefield.
Yeah, in this situation, I mean, we got Jace, we got the Monarch token.
There it is.
The opponent's all jammed up with only 2. Yeah.
Landry Jessup only making a quick appearance on this battlefield as Dom Harvey extends the hand. And that means Harlan Fearer moving to 6-1. Jeskai Mentor. That was a match with some heavy hitters. Harlan 3rd place on the leaderboard. Dominic 5th place. Both these players clawing their way to the Players' Championship, trying to get there. And Harlan looking for another big finish on the heels of a very nice performance just a couple weeks ago in Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, both of these guys are still great position to have deep runs in this event.
Absolutely, absolutely. They're still fine, still alive for day 2. Harlan especially in a really strong spot. I'm going to have to pull off a few wins in a row. But I liked what I saw out of the archetype. I think, like you said, it has some clunkiness to it. It felt very mana-starved, which is interesting considering it's mostly like 1-drops, but you have a lot of activations between Thespian Stage.
Yep.
And we talked about how Dom was just a mana away from being able to set up the Elvish Reclaimer protection for his 2020 after activating the Thespian Stage. So very, very mana-hungry deck and not really like all that many ways to get ahead on mana. Well, you see why the Flagstones are there, right? Like if you never do that cheat, you're kind of getting far ahead. And you see why Dom played the game slowly as well. You really want a lot of mana to be able to protect all your stuff.
It's funny because I look at this deck and it's very similar in some ways to the Golgari Depths deck, only instead of protecting its combo with discard spells, it tries to protect its combo with very inexpensive creatures.
Right.